theme for the month. Our theme is Through the Looking Glass. And this theme, to me, is so powerful because the thing we're looking for, we're looking with. And we are told by the poet that life is the mirror of both king and slave. We all see our reflection within the mirror. However, when Alice was looking at the mirror and she saw this amazing scene, and as she peered in, she found that she could actually move through the looking glass into another dimension. I believe that we are fourth dimensional beings, that we live in a third dimensional world, and that as Jesus, who became the Christ, said, "In my Father's house are many mansions." For me, that means many dimensions. And that as we open our consciousness, and I want to say something about New Thought, that there is a mystical element in New Thought that many bypass because it becomes very, very mental. But I want you to know, today we are making the longest journey on the planet. The 18-inch journey from what? The head to the heart. The heart being the doorway to the soul. So when we're looking at the many dimensions and the energy of life, and that we peer through this looking glass, and the Apostle Paul said, "I see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. I am not known then, but I will be known." In other words, as we come to the energy of ourselves, our true spiritual nature, as we see through these appearances that are showing up in our world today, because in the twinkling of an eye, it can be disappeared and returned to its native nothingness from whence it came, because in truth, it is neither person, place, nor thing, only the life and the energy that has been given unto it. So when we look at Chronos time, the everyday, in fact, the ancient Hindi called that samsara. The everyday, get up in the morning, do your thing, wash your face, go to work, come back, eat supper. That's the daily round. That's samsara. But there is a very fine line between samsara and nirvana, which is the highest state of heaven on earth that we can attain to. So when we are living in that state of Chronos, that's samsara. That's the everyday. But then, as our Joan of Angels read so beautifully, we move into Kairos that moves through Chronos. And the routines of work become celebrations of life and love, because we've moved through the everyday, the samsara of life, the daily routine, and we suddenly have the willingness to transform the routines of work into celebrations of life and love. And so today, as we acknowledge the power, the presence, the energy that allows us to be all that we can be, that we are at choice. Are we, and we all, I want you to know, we're all part of the human condition. We do, get into that lower vibratory energy at times. However, when I do that, that is a trigger symbol for me. In fact, I spoke at Wednesday Night Live Spirit, Mind, and Body Connection about the opportunity that we have to have a trigger symbol. To put, I was sharing about the sacredness and the energy of our sacred mythology, that this thing called life speaks to us at a DNA cellular level, at a primal level. So, I had an angel card that I chose, and it was presence. And so I put presence in my pocket, and I could feel presence. And all we have to do is, when we're feeling part of this human condition and our vibratory frequency is moving to a lower place, presence, presence, presence. We tap that energy in our pocket and acknowledge that there is the intuitive part of us. And that through that intuitive part of us, it sees through, not the glass darkly, but face to face to the truth of our being. Why do we love shows like Touched by an Angel and, the miracle shows that are on so beautifully demonstrated? Or the story of God. I love that Morgan Freeman, he does such a beautiful narration of that show. And one of my very, very favorite movies is Lost Horizons. It's from 1933. Ronald Coleman starred in it. I watch that about every 3 to 6 months because they get into a plane, an airplane, because they're fleeing, they're having an uprising in China. And so, you know, everybody's getting, that's non-Chinese is getting on an airplane. And they get on an airplane and they grab this one and grab that one, and suddenly they're in an airplane and they're on their way to America. However, when they wake up, they realize they're not on the way to America. They are on their way to someplace else. And so they try to get the pilot's attention, and they suddenly see that he's Asian. He's not the American pilot that was originally there. And so now they are in the skies, and they are being taken to someplace they know not where. But they're all there together. And of course, you know, the star, Ronald Coleman, is such a great actor, and he's the star of the show, and he has great faith, and he knows it's all going to turn out just fine. And suddenly, they see the Himalayas. There doesn't seem to be a place to land, and they land, and the pilot transcends in that moment. And as they think they're going to be dying in the snow in the Himalayas, they see this long train of tribesmen coming. And they see a man that's like 6'5" leading them. And they get to them to rescue them and give them blankets and say, follow us into where? Shangri-La. Shangri-La. They stepped through the looking glass from war, civil war, and amazing upset and violence onto a plane and transcended the energy that was going on the ground. Now, when I was 20 years old, I had my mother take me to various airlines, and because I wanted to join the airlines and I wanted to travel. And I went to every single airline, and in those days there were so many. I mean, there were like Eastern and Continental and TWA and Pan Am. It goes on and on and on. And finally, you know, they all said the same thing. Well, you're so pretty, and we send a letter out. So you'll probably be receiving a letter. Well, you know, that did not really, I didn't care for that. I was into instant gratification. I wanted to be hired then and there, and they just weren't doing that. So finally, the very last airline was United. And I went in, and I could see that it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that this gentleman who's interviewing all of the girls, I could see that he was, you know, you could see he'd had a full day. And so he asked the usual questions. Why do you want to be in the airlines? And I said, because I love people. And that was absolutely the truth. And at 20 years old, he said, and why else? I mean, you know, tell me. And I said, well, I love to travel. And he said, where have you been? And I said, nowhere. I'd never even been on a plane. But I knew that I loved to travel and wanted to. And, you know, with each question, he just went south. His eyes glazed over. He'd heard it all before. You know, this was just the same scenario. You're so pretty. We send out letters. You know, wait to hear from us. So I got up, and I was totally frustrated. And so I got my hand on the doorknob. And as I'm turning the doorknob, I turned to him. And I said, you know, there is one other reason why I want to join the airlines. And he said, well, what is that, dear? And I said, to bag me a man. He said, oh my God, you are the first honest woman I have ever met. Hire her, weigh her in, she's with us. So in 30 seconds, I realized that telling the truth was the greatest shortcut that could ever be. And what I discovered is when I got up in that airplane, and everything that seemed like a problem, a challenge, you know, whatever the upset was, the higher we transcended this energy, the higher we got, the smaller everything looked. And suddenly, it's like, I was upset about that. I can even barely see it. It's all about perspective, isn't it? It's all about perspective. So that was my looking glass. Getting on that plane, having it ascend to great heights, at 30,000 feet, you can look down, and none of it matters. So it's about perspective. So when we move through the looking glass, and I love what Alice said, that, I have believed in 6 impossible things before breakfast, that we put impossible on things. However, when we step through that looking glass, all things are possible to them that believe. All things are possible. And if you take the word impossible and you split it, I'm possible. I'm possible. So on this day where we acknowledge that we have the opportunity to move to other dimensions, that it is about Shangri-La, and they go into this amazing community in the Himalayas, and it's just, the food is wonderful. They're vegetarians, and so am I, incidentally. And they're just amazed at how wonderful everything is and how joyous the people are. And the beauty in the waterfalls and the animals, and everyone coexists with such peace and such love and such friendship. They are in a new horizon. And so they begin to take it on and love where they are and realize energetically that this is possible. And of course, the main star of the movie, our Ronald Colman, who is playing a diplomat to England, Robert Conway. His brother wants to get home to England. And he keeps pressing and pressing, and then he's going to go by himself. So our star, Robert Conway, says, "No, I will go with you." And so there is a young woman there. She looks very, very young, but the High Lama, in fact, our Robert Conway meets with the High Lama. And the High Lama talks about all the dimensions of life. And that in my Father's house are many mansions, and that we are one. And he spoke universal truth to the star of this film. And so Robert Conway, he gets it. He's always believed this. He's always known this. I believe we come in feeling that oneness and that unconditional love. We learn hate. We learn judgment. We learn criticism. Those are learned patterns. However, there is a place within us that has never been touched by grief. It has never taken offense, nor has it given offense. There is a place of peace within us that is that place of Christ consciousness, the Buddha nature, the holy I am presence. And when we understand this, when we open ourselves to it, we step through the looking glass into Shangri-La. We ascend the appearances, the conditions on the ground that we've given our power away to, and we rise above them. And as we rise above them, we begin to experience Shangri-La, a place of peace, of love, of truth, of beauty. And what was so amazing is a young woman who looked very young, the High Lama explained that in this rarefied atmosphere, she was 120 years old. She looked young and beautiful and amazing. But the moment she steps beyond that curve in the Himalayan, on the mountain, when she goes beyond that, she will revert to Chronos time. They are in Kairos time. They are in God-given energy of Kairos. But the minute she steps beyond the bend on the mountain, she will revert to Chronos time. And the process, the aging process of Chronos will just, suck her in. And suddenly, she's 120 years old. And so the star, our Robert Conway's brother, and he took her with. So when they went beyond the bend in the road, and they found like a little cave to rest in, he turned, and she was withered, and she was wrinkled, and she was not the young, beautiful girl that he fell in love with, and he became so freaked out that he lost his balance and went down the mountain. So there is Robert Conway alone, trekking his way back to England. And of course, the film is so wonderful. He's in love with Jane Wyman, and it's this perfect union, spiritual union with all of the beauty and facets that a relationship has. And eventually, of course, finds his way back to Shangri-La, finds his way back to the energy of Kairos, the energy of God, the energy of the High Lama, the energy of peace, of love, of truth and beauty. And so as Alice moved through the looking glass to save the Mad Hatter's family, who had died in very interesting circumstances with the Red Queen, and she wants to steal Kronos, and she does. She is the thief of time. But she steps into Kairos when she saves the family of the Mad Hatter. And I am absolutely the queen of high tea. I have been to high tea all over the world. And what I know is that when you sit down energetically and you have your family around you, and I say spiritual family, extended family, and of course bloodline. And I do love what Richard Bach said in his wonderful book on Jonathan Livingston Seagull, and that we're all in the Earth School, that rarely has a true family been related by blood, but respect and joy in one another's lives. And that is so, proven in my own family. So today when we are looking at moving into another dimension, and we move out of Kronos, the chronology, the samsara, the daily round, which you've always done and you're always doing, and you turn the routines of work into celebrations of life and love. What is that? Kairos, isn't it? Kairos, where we are going higher yet. So on our path, I invite all of us to really, really acknowledge, in my Father's house are many mansions. I look through the glass darkly, and then face to face. And the eye in which I see God is the same eye in which God sees me. That we are stepping in to that amazing Shangri-La of consciousness, where we rise above pandemics. We rise above the political scene. I'm keeping my consciousness very, very above it, because and I've shared with my daughter, my consciousness is on what we need in our nation: the love, the kindness, the energy, the opportunity of equality, civil rights, human rights, women's rights, Black Lives Matter, all of it. That's where my consciousness is. Because, as Jesus said, I am in a high place, and I will not come down. None of these outer things move me. That is my declaration to myself. So on our journey, we're all going somewhere, and where is that? Higher yet. Where is it? Higher yet. Where is it? Higher yet. I am in a high place, and I will not come down. I say to you, namaste. The God in me salutes the God in you, and the God in you salutes the God in me. And if I am in that place in me, and you are in that place in you, there is only one of us. Namaste. And I say, shalom, the peace that passes all understanding. And God bless us, everyone. And so